Bava Metzia. We are now in Daf Nun Ches Amud Beis. Noach, because it tells you how to be Noach with people. I would repeat something we saw yesterday. 4 lines from the bottom of the page. 4 lines from the bottom of the page Nun Ches Amud Beis, because there's something to add over here. Hakol Yodin Gehenna. Everybody goes to Gehenna. Chutz Mishloish, except for 3 people. First of all, so the question is, Hakol Sal Kadaitach, does everybody go to Gehenna? Is that so? Nobody has hope. Ela Ema must be, you mean to say something else. Kola Yodin Gehenna, out of those who go down to Gehenna, Oilim, everybody eventually makes it out of Gehenna into Oilim Abo. Chutz Mishloisha Shiodin Ven Oilim. There are 3 that go down, and seemingly they never go out of Gehenna, and that's really, really bad. They never come up and make it to Gan Eden, to the Olam Haba. And soon we'll see what it means exactly. Ve'eluhen, these are the 3 that are lost seemingly forever. Abol Eshesish, person has relations with an Eshesish, that's a very, very big, heavy one. V'amal ben pnei chaveru barabim, that's the topic of today. Abonos ponim, how bad that is, it's like a murder. V'mechan shemra lechaveroi, and the one who mechan shemra lechaveroi, the one who calls his friend a bad name, like a derogatory nickname. Yeah. So okay, before we go to the Perush, let's continue. The one who calls his friend a bad name, that is included in Malbin Pnei Chaver Barabim. In other words, I assume there are other people in the area. So you make his face go white, you put him to shame, yeah, you vayash him, you embarrass him in public by calling him a bad name. Who cares if you call him a bad name or you mention a bad thing that happened to him? It's all the same. Why is it a different category? It should fall under the category of Malbin Ponim. And says the Gemara, and that's Haloch and Shulchan Aruch, my friends. Afal gav the dash baby shmei. Even though the person is used to be called by that name, if you mean to insult him and he is not so crazy about it, in other words, he's not pon of mislabnos. He's not very embarrassed because he's used to it, but he's not exactly excited. And you, when you call him that way, you mean to be mevayishim. Yeah, you mean to be mean. That's another condition. Then, although it's not albanos ponim, because the level of busha is not as bad as albanos ponim, but because the bad name is involved, that makes it worse. Now, Tosfos asks the question, and my question is also, before I saw Tosfos, it says only these 3 people make it to Gehenna and never make it out. That's it. They're in Gehenna forever. So first of all, they're not the only 3, because we see that the Pikorsim and Minim, people who are koifer in the Torah, welcome back, people who are koifer but Torah, people who don't believe in the Torah. In other words, they got good Jewish education and became koifrim, or people that are mevazet talmidei chachamim. Or people who say, these people who sit and learn, they're not giving anything to society. Unfortunately, a lot of Jewish people say that. That's a pikorsis. That's bad. The Gemara in Sanhedrin. So how do you reconcile that? Explains Tosfos as follows. It doesn't mean that these people are staying there forever, which means the person who's Baal Eshes Ish, says Tosfos, has hope, Dafka. The person who's on Eshes Ish, he's there for 12 months. We know that the Rosha is in Gehenna for 12 months, right? So now, a person who did a few averas here and there, which is most of us, unfortunately, he'll go to Gehenna. The fire doesn't consume him, and then eventually, after a day, after a week, after a month, after I don't know how much, he makes it back to Gan Eden, and he lives there happily ever after until the Messiah comes. Mashein Ken, a person who's Eshes Ish is 12 months, right? That's why Kaddish is 11 months. You know why? To show my father or mother are not Rishoim. They don't need my care till 12 months. If someone's father was an Epikoros, or Baal Eshes Ish, and he has to say Kaddish 12 months. Yeah, I thought it's not a modern minig. I think it's Shulchan Aruch. It's yeah. Yeah. Rav Zilberstein Pesach Halacha L'Maaseh gave a psak to Baal Tshuva. His father was a hardcore Chvesa Meretz Nikazoi. He told him say Kaddish 12 months. Adarabba. Uri Zohar. Did you hear about the Israeli actor became Baal Teshuva? Uri Zohar. So he said that Dafka was very makpid to always say Kaddish and Mishnah for all his friends from the theater and cinema. He said they really, really need my help. Can you imagine these people in Shemayim probably are not doing so great? That's very makpid Rizor to always, do the Kaddish and all the necessary things for the Yilun Neshama of all these friends from the showbiz. Bekitzer, The Malbin Ponim, says Toisfos, he is there up to after 12 months. He's there. This is very interesting. After 12 months, he doesn't go to Gehenna, but he doesn't go to Gan Eden either. He's like stuck somewhere, stuck in between. The Sheikh and the Apikorsim, they burn forever. They're worse. Apikorsim are not mentioned here because they're so bad. They're mamish burn in hell, loylam v'ed. Yeah, they're like really, really bad. The Sheikh and the Malbin Ponim is 12 months and then what? And then sort of nothing. Then is a parev. And Eishes Ish is 12 months. Okay, so these are the Gedorim. Tesis has different answers, but that's one workable shot. And may we not know of all that. As Shalom. I'm listening to every word that comes from the peanut gallery. It's listen, the topic of Olam Haba and all its levels is much much bigger than it's endless. Olam Haba is endless.
For any time.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh wow, 46 shiur in Torah anytime. Soon I'll be there too. What? Weiter. Let's continue. Amar Rabba bar Hana. Amar Rabba. No, thank you for your addition and thank you for your important input. Okay. Amar Rabba bar Hana Mal B'Yochanan. We are going now to NT8. Nun Tes Amud Aleph. We're just starting Nun Tes Aleph. You just Nochlo le'odom shiyovel sofek eshes ish. It's better for a person to have relations with a sofek eshes ish, and some say even eshes ish. There's a question whether the woman is eshes ish or not. As bad as that is, and it's terrible, it's even better val yalbin pnei chaver barabim. Wow. In other words, eshes ish, which is the paradigm of bed averos, even that is not as bad as albonos ponim chaver barabim, to embarrass your friend in public, which again works very well with Tosfos. That says the Eishes Ish, that the Eishes Ish, even in Shemaim, is not as bad as Albonos Ponim. Minalan, how do you know that? Well, where's the Makor? You're saying a big Kiddush here. How do you know? But the Dorosh Rava had a drosha. What's a drosha that Rava said? The Dorosh Rava is now, basically extracting something from a pasuk, quoting David HaMelech. Who was the one who was Bo al Sofek Eishes Ish? David HaMelech. But Sheva was a question whether she was divorced or not, because her husband gave her a get. David, he gives his wife a get, and in case he dies, then the get works retroactively. That's Gemara and Rashi in Shabbos and Bava Amud Aleph, the end of the Beima, Bechule. So then she was a suffocacious ish. At the end of the day, retroactively, she wasn't. And what does David have to say about that? My dichtiv. Rava says, what does it mean when David the Melech says? It's very hard pasuk to translate. Ubetzal I samchu v'ne'esafu. They were happy and they were gathered, something to do with a tzela, my rib. Everybody knows what is the rib. That's the woman. They're happy and they're joyful in a bad way. They're gathered. They gang up on me. Something to do with my wife. Kalu v'loy domu. They tear and the loy domu, and they don't keep quiet. But domu also means like blood. What does that mean? What's going on over here? Amar David l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rav explains the pasuk. David said to Hashem, Ribono shel olam, you surely know, if they would have torn my flesh away, my blood wouldn't have dripped. In other words, the people give me such halbonas ponim, I don't have blood left in me anymore. Yeah, my mental state is so bad because of what the people do to me. Why is it the people embarrass him so much? Because of Batsheva. Not only that, even when those people would embarrass me about my story with Batsheva, even though I did tshuva, even when they learn the goyim v'olos, in other words, when they learn sugyas to do with tumah v'tara, which has nothing to do with eshes ish, even then, oimrim li, they tell me, David, in the middle of learning about an absolutely unrelated topic, they all of a sudden come to Medrash and they ask me, David, David, maybe you know what's the punishment of somebody who is Baal Eshes Ish, yeah? In other words, very, very clear insinuation. And I was mechaven to Tosfos. Tosfos says, why not going Baalos? In other words, if you learn in this Medrash about Eshes Ish, maybe it's a relevant question. Even then, it's not so nice to ask him. But you're learning about topic X, all of a sudden you stop, you're learning Bechabur about a holos, and you all of a sudden approach David about Eshes Ish, obviously trying to insult him in public. Now David had what to answer. David gave them a very strong charif answer. The person who gets chenek In other words, if he got Mrs. Din, that's mechaper on his olam haba. You know that. That's a very good deal. To get Mrs. Din, not that I'm looking for it, yeah, but somebody got Mrs. Din, got kapar for olam haba. Or Tosis proves from here that after 12 months he'll make it olam haba. You're asking, I'm answering you. You embarrass me. You embarrassing me is worse because you will not have chelik olam haba. The one who causes embarrassment in public to his friend will not make it to olam haba whatsoever. You got it, the question, you got the answer. Yeah, and therefore, yeah, you're telling me about Eshes Ish, I did tshuva, and I have chelik olam haba. David the Melech, the Sheikh, those who embarrass in public, they don't have a chelik in olam haba. Chelik is for regular Eshes Ish and her friend. Yeah, and her good friend. And that's chenik, yeah, unless she's a Bas Koyen, and then she gets Reifa. He still gets chenik. Unless she's an Aramorosa, she gets skila. But the Eshes Ish gets chenik, which is, by the way, the second easiest, easiest or second easiest machlokas form of death. Yeah, skila and sreifa are worse. Weiter. Malzutra bar tuvia. Yeah, line starts with the word zutra. Nun tes amud aleph tractate Bava Metzia. Malzutra bar tuvia Omar Rav, or de Omar. Some say some connected to the previous memra. ואמרי לו, some say Omar Rav Chan bar Bizna, Omar Rav Shimon Chasida. ואמרי Omar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rav Shimon Yochai. These are all alternative Amoraim and Tanoim that mentioned the following apostle memra, which everybody knows. Noach lo odom shiapil atzmul kivshan esh. It's better for a person to drop himself to fall into the furnace, into the fire. It's better to get burnt in the fire, yeah, in the stake, in the fire, in the furnace. It's better to be in that situation than embarrassing your friend in public. And we all know Minolan. How do you know that? Mi Tomor. We know that from Tamar. What was the story with Tamar? He mutzes v'shilcha el chamia. In other words, mutzes means she was going out, she was taken out, but mutzes also means what? The fire already got close. What's matzit? Lighter, yeah? Latzit is to light the fire, to ignite. Yeah, the fire was already ignited. She was almost by the fire. And yet she did not actually say, excuse me, Yehuda, it was you who are the father. You had relations with me and you thought that I'm a Zoino. She didn't say that. She sent him, the Mata and the Psilim and the Chosemes, she sent him like a hint to see if he would admit, great. If he doesn't admit, then I'll burn myself. She preferred burning rather than embarrassing him in public. And from Tamar, we learned that concept. And now comes another question that I have, but I'm going to let you ask first before me. Yeah. So, question is, there's a question, I think already in the Rishon, a big question. We see over here basically that the Torah says that the person should throw himself into the fire and not embarrass somebody in public. That sounds like Torah Gbal Yavor. In other words, throw yourself into the fire and don't embarrass your friend. So why do we say there are 3 Averes Chamuras? Why do we say there are only 3 Averes? You're supposed to kill, whatever, be killed, die, and not transgress. There should be 4. Albonas Ponim. There are many answers. What? Nice. One answer. Nice. I'm so good. One answer is it's part of Retzicha. In other words, it's a byproduct of Retzicha. Another pshat is it doesn't say that it's not a halachic thing. It's not a halachic thing that you're supposed to whatever say kill me and I won't embarrass Yana. Halachically, you can embarrass the other guy and not die. It's just noyachloi lo'odem shiapil. It's just a much better deal for you to go into the fire because you won't make it to Olam Haba. If you throw yourself into the fire without embarrassing, you'll make it to Olam Haba. But if you embarrass your friend, you will not make it to Olam Haba forever. What? That's just stupidity. The Gemara is giving you good advice. It's not halacha. If somebody tells you murder your friend or die, it's halacha. You have to die. It's not halacha. Noyachloi lo'odom. It's just the good thing for you. It's good advice. It's kedai to run into the fire and not embarrassed because this way you'll live l'olam haba and that way you'll die in l'olam haba. I have a nice raya, Baruch Hashem. Look at the very, very top of the page. What does it say? Over there, obviously, it does mean you have to be Baal Eshesish, right? Noyachloi means out of both options, it's better to do this and not that if that's the only 2 options. Yeah, it doesn't mean you should do it. Nobody said you should Baal Eshesish, right? So noyach loy means calculating mitzvah keneged avera, like a financial advisor tells you, what's it? Then it's kedai, but it doesn't mean that. Now, very nice point that Peretz mentioned that of course the oynish misa besreifa by halacha is not mamish like burning, in the stake like the Christians did, but it means that you give melt what's his name lead into the mouth, but that was before Matan Torah, so they did things differently. Yeah. Last time I checked, it was, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. Weiter. I was told when I was a baby there was a hot coffee spilled in me. I don't know, but I don't remember. Weiter. Okay, weiter. Yeah, I'm listening, and yeah, weiter. I would like again to say that to the screen that everything can be mistaken with tshuva. If a person was with an Eshesish, Albonos Ponim, whatever that may be, if a person did proper tshuva, Hashem forgives, and in Olam Haba, he'll be clean and even better than the person who was not choitim, right? But tshuva even higher than people who never sinned. Weiter. Omar Rav China the Breder of Idi. My dichtiv, what does it mean when it says, Veloy toinu ish es amitoi? Do not do oino, and we're talking here about oinoas, dvorim, do not insult, do not cause, emotional pain. Ish es amitoy, a man to his amit means a friend. But what does amitoy really mean? Am she'itcha b'toyra b'mitzvos altoneu. Amitoy means an am, a person who's like you with Torah and mitzvahs. Am itcha, the am that's together with you, a person who is on your spiritual level. Him, you're not allowed to embarrass in public. V'chul v'chulei. What do you mean my spiritual level? Somebody as firm as I am. Says I'll jump straight to the Shulchan Aruch. So Shulchan Aruch this morning. This is all halachas from Shulchan Aruch, and it's in Chosh and Mishpat. Unbelievable. In Chosh and Mishpat, these halachas appear. Not insulting your friend, and it says there a person is Yireh Shamayim. A person is not Yireh Shamayim, which means a person who doesn't care about Torah mitzvahs, then he is causing himself embarrassment, and therefore there's no Isser, or not as strong not to do Oinoas Dvorim to him. Wow. In other words, Oinoas Dvorim for a person who's Yireh Shamayim up to a certain level. But a person who's not Yireh Shamayim B'chlal, who doesn't care about Torah mitzvahs, he does the various right, left, and center, it is completely careless about his Torah mitzvahs, that person, there's no Isser of Oinoas Dvorim by him. Oinoas Momon there is. Oinoas Momon, and Mecharusa said, and he was right, we saw it in Meforshim, Oinoas Momon, should apply even to irreligious people who are making fun, whatever, the bad guys. You should not cheat them with money. Goyim, you're not allowed to cheat with money, but you're allowed to do oinos momon, over and under price. For goyim, you could over and under pricing, maybe unless to avoid chilul Hashem. But if the goy would never know, he's a tourist who's here or there, fly tomorrow, whatever, you can overprice. It's a nice thing to do. You're not mechuyev to that. L'she'enken onos dvorim, to insult someone only applies to people who are decent people and they keep Torah mitzvahs up to a certain level. People are mezalzel who belittle Torah mitzvahs and not Yireh Shamayim b'chlal, then there is no prohibition to insult them. Yep. In other words, today it's different because today we right away think chilonim, kiruv. Of course, you have to do kiddush Hashem. But a person who's not chiloni. He knows very well what's Torah mitzvahs and he's mezalzel. He's just a person who makes fun of everything. He's not interested in Torah mitzvahs. Makes fun of himself, of the Torah. Absolutely no self-respect, no respect for the Torah. Yeah, you should be told. Maybe should do techocha, but there's no isser of Oinos Dvorim by him. Yes, soon we're starting a Shalom Bayis class. You're gonna feel. I'm gonna take you 40 years back. Before the huppah. Yes, I'm listening, and then yeah. Right. Shalom Bayis time. Shalom Bayis time. I told my wife to watch the shiur today. Right, says the Gemara, Omar Rav, le'olam yeha'odem zohir be'onos ishtoi. Be super careful not to annoy your wife. Do not insult your wife more than other people. Why? Shemitoch shedim also metzuya, because women are more prone, more likely to cry. Yeah, her tear is more motzo, is more there. In other words, she's easier to get into tears. Oino so kroivo. Therefore, her oino is closer. Says Rashi, and soon we'll see later that one of the bad news about Onos Dvorim is if you really insult someone and that person then starts crying to Hashem, Hashem will quickly punish the one that insulted. Yeah? So you don't want that with your wife. Even if your wife doesn't complain about you to Hashem, but she cries because of you, then that's bad news because you're in Hashem's bad books. and therefore don't start with your wife. I mean, not the negative way. Yeah? Don't insult her. Don't keep the shalom bayis because you don't want her tears on your cheshbon. Yeah. Omar Rabbi Elozo, miyom shenechrav beis hamikdash. Oh, that's a big one. Miyom shenechrav beis hamikdash. Since the day the beis hamikdash was destroyed and people were not sincere enough, nin alu sharit tefillah. The gates of prayer were locked. Today the gates of prayers are locked. Yeah, I'm going to ask, why do you daven Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv? Yeah, shall we come to Shul and Mincha? Let's see. Yeah, Shlomo, you're off the hook. Ninalu Shari Tefillah. The Shari Tefillah are locked. Soon we'll see what that means. Shenemar. And it says, Gam ki ezak, I think it's in Eicha. Gam ki ezak v'ashaveh, even when I cry and I heed and I this, Sosam Tfilosi, he blocked my prayer. Hashem blocked my prayer for coming from entering the gates of heaven. Okay, whatever that means, we'll see later. Even though the gates of tefillah were locked, the gates of prayers were not locked. Shenemar, as it says, Shima tfilosi Hashem, listen to my tefillah Hashem, v'shavosi hazina, heed my cry, yeah, and not my cry, v'shavosi my cry, my shouting, not my tears. El dimosi al techerash, don't stay quiet when watching my tear. Rashi says El dimosi al techerash is not a request, but rather it's a reality. I know it's not an imperative, a request. Please see my tear. Please listen to my tear. But it says I know as a fact. It's future tense. You will not stay quiet when seeing my tear, which means. Oh, so question number one is, what do you mean Shar Tefillin in Olu? Right, Shar Tefillin in Olu. What does it mean? So why are we davening? And we see many times. Amaroim Tanoim till today. People can tell you, I daven really hard, and Hashem listened, right? So what does it mean Shar Tefillin in Olu? And my answer is, after researching Oitzer Chochma here, there, and everywhere, quite simple. I'll give you one general answer that includes many other answers. Do you lock your house? You go to Chutzart, you lock your house, you go to, yeah? If not, you lock your house? Yeah. So how do you get out? Very stupid question. Very, very stupid question. Yeah, you lock the door. Well, you have the key. Well, we have a code, yeah? You have a key. You open the door. Locked doesn't mean locked forever. Locked means there's a key. There's a combination, yeah? Gets rusty sometimes, but the lock is there. You need to know how to open the door. We have the right key, the right code. That's what it means. Because in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, people got very blasé about davening or about korbanos, yeah? Hashem said, I'm locking the door. You want to open the door with tefillah? You may open the door with tefillah. That's hard. That's why today, when we daven to Hashem, even with a lot of kavanah, please, I want whatever I want, that new Lamborghini. I need a Lamborghini, please. With no tears, then what? Lamborghini is not yours. Why? Because the doors are locked, and you have to know how to daven the right way, what to daven for. They bring all kinds of examples. Tzaddikim are answered. If you daven very long, very hard, it's answered. At the end of the day, sometimes you answer, you daven for X, you get it for Y. There's a lock. You have to know how to handle the lock, how to manage the lock. But She'enken's Mois, the tears, it's much easier. And the tears, the gate of tears has no lock. It's open. The gates where the tears go through has no lock. It's open directly. Just come through. It's a drive-in service. Just drive through, and Hashem will listen to you right away if you daven with the tears. If the tears are sincere. Yeah, my wife printed this for me. I told them, giving the share, but the kids are even dima, even the tears, if they're sincere, it's much easier to have your tears seen by Hashem, and therefore Hashem will hear you davening when you daven with tears, with real tears, rather than if you daven without tears, then Hashem would listen to you, but it's a much harder process. Okay, that's what it means. Excuse me, what do you mean? 1 second. What is that? Weiter. Ve'omar Rav. Oh, more about Shalom Bayis. Ve'omar Rav, said Rav. Ve'omar Rav. Ay. 1 second. Kol hoilech batzas ishtoi. Whoever follows his wife's advice, nofel begenim, goes to hell, goes to Gehenna. See, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, he goes to Gehenna. Yeah. If your wife gives you advice and you listen to her, I hope YouTube will maintain my channel after that. They don't close my channel for male chauvinism. But it says you follow, I know the end. You follow your wife's advice, you go after her to Gehenna. Yeah, Eshenema, who followed his wife and it wasn't such a great thing. Achav, Achav's wife was Jezebel, what's her name? Izebel, yeah. And what? She was not a nice woman, to say the least. He followed her advice. Good husband, Shalom Bayis. You know what she did? With the Zara, she had all these plot and manipulation against Novus the Israeli, V'chule, she lied, she this. She was a very bad woman, and he followed her like a tatale, and he felt again. And speaking of the four kings, you meant Achav, by the way, also, right? Achav is one of the only four kings that went to, that has no chelik l'olam haba. He really is in a very bad state because he listened to his wife. Oy, 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 oy. Omer le Rav Papa Abaye, is that so? Rav Papa asked Abaye about what Rab said. Is that so? Is it so bad to follow your wife's advice? The Hamri Inchi, people say, not like that. Itisacha gutza, if your wife is short, I mean short in she's a short person physically. Gachin v'til choshla, you should bend down and whisper to her, which means bend down and listen to what she has to say. But go down to her and do listen to what she has to say and consult with her. So you see, sometimes it is good to consult with your wife. So when do you consult with your wife? When don't you? And it depends who you ask. It depends if you ask the husband or the wife. Yeah? And says the Gemara, no, loy kasha. It's not difficult. Ho b'mili de alma, v'ho b'mili de beisa. Depends if it's mili de alma. Things to do with the outside world. The husband should be the minister of foreign affairs. He should be dealing with the people in the outside world. V'ho b'mili de beisa, decorating the kitchen or the food that's going to be served. In the interior, the minister of interior affairs, the Sarah Pnim, that should be the woman. The woman is an inside creature, and the man is an outside creature. Yeah, the man is the one should be out there dealing with people, dealing with the oilam, and the woman should be dealing with the internal inyanim of us. Yeah, both can be very choshuv. Just each one has his own, his own turf. He's on the outside, she's on the inside. We have a neighbor who's a ganenet, and she said, but the boys and the girls, she has a mixed gun, Rahman al-Islam, of 3 years old, and boys and girls. And she says the boys always listen to the voices from the outside. They always hear the trucks and the cars, and the girls always hear the noises of the inside, the tap, dripping and stuff like that. Yeah. In other words, boys are naturally more connected to the outside world, and the girls are more inside. Also, the physical body, everything by men is more exterior, and women are more interior. Pregnancy, inside. Weiter. Lishna Achrina, and Tznius, of course. Lishna Achrina, another explanation. Ho b'mili d'shmaya, v'ho b'mili d'alma. Oh, that's what all the madrichim say. Mili d'shmaya, things to do with spirituality, things to do with halacha, things to do with mili d'shmaya, things to do with Torah, hashkofa. Halacha is the husband's turf, Ho b'mili d'alma. Mashenkin, things to do with olam hazeh, things to do with the food and the cooking and the laundry, and could be very strong decisions too. I don't know. Anything to do with the gashmis, olam hazeh, that should be the woman, and anything to do with the ruchni should be the men. Yeah. Halavai, there would be a situation today, but that's what the Torah tells us to do. That should be the ideal matzav. Amar of Chizda, more about the gates of heaven. Amar of Chizda, kol she'orim nin olim, all the she'orim, all gates are sometimes locked. Hashem doesn't always listen to every tefillah, v'chule, v'chule. It's like up to different factors. Chutz misharei oino. Sharei oino, which means, says Rashi, somebody who shouts to Hashem, even without tears, and he shouts and cries to Hashem because of what? He was misane, he was insulted, somebody really hurt him in the inside. Those gates are never locked. Yeah, they're always there. Now, I want to explain something. The Gemara does say in Brochus in the beginning of the last parak, one's not supposed to snitch to Hashem about his friend. That's only bad for him. Yeah, it only causes more. In other words, if let's say Reuven hurt my feelings, and I daven to Hashem, look what Reuven did to me. Please punish Reuven. That's bad. Because then Hashem would say, you want me to punish Reuven? Are you so good yourself? Let's open your own book. But if I cry to Hashem and say, Hashem, I feel so terrible. I'm not saying you should do something to Reuven. I feel so terrible because I'm insulted and I'm crying, Hashem, please help me. And Hashem knows that the result, my tears came because of Reuven's insults. Then Hashem will punish Reuven, nice and quick. Shenemar. How do you know that those gates are not locked? Hine Hashem nitzav. Behold, here's Hashem standing figuratively. Hashem stands al choimas anach, over a choma, over a wall with an anach. Anach is like how do you call it? It's like a plumb line. What? Plumb line. Anach. Ubiyodoi anach. And in his hands In other words, the wall is straight, and he's in his hand he has the plumb line. What does that mean? So first of all, anach is similar to oino. We saw that in the Meforshim. Hashem made the world to be straight. Hashem wants the world to be as straight as a straight wall. Like an architect wants to make sure the engineer, right, wants to make sure that the wall is very straight. Okay, so Hashem has very little tolerance to people who are distorting the world with their bad behavior of oino. Remember, what's oino? What's oino's original meaning? To change the price, right? To play around with the price the wrong way. When you play with people's feelings, it's a similar thing. Yeah, you move things around. You call, yeah, you're. I would say the common denominator is exploiting. When this nice American guy comes all smiles to the shop here, and the guy tells him, only for you is a telephone for only 200 shekels. And really the phone is 100 shekels, right? So that's overpricing. He's exploiting his naive situation. So to exploiting your friend's weakness by insulting him, by touching the soft spot, the under the belt, that is oino. And Hashem wants the world to be straight, yeah, without people hurting each other. Each one should be in his right place. And he measures with his own hand to make sure that people behave the right way, and then Hashem does not forgive. I mean, unless you ask Mechila, of course. Now continues the Gemara in the same idea. Omer Blazer, Hakol Nifra Bidei Shaliach. Usually Hashem takes not chas revenge. Hashem punishes the person if he deserves punishment through a shliach, through a messenger, through a shliach which is not as bad. Hutz me'oino, except for oino, shenema ubiyodoi onach, which means when it comes to oino, it's kilo Hashem's own business. Hashem has the plumb line in his own hand, whatever that means, which means the punishment that comes from Hashem is harsher, is not done, he doesn't soften the blow. Yeah, it's Hashem himself will make sure, take care of business, let's say in a company, people do this and that, there's a special person from, from the, how do you say, the Koch Adam, the human resources, the HR, he deals with it. But somebody does something really, really bad. The CEO himself goes down to the office to see what's going on, right? It's so bad, the CEO himself has to go down. So that's what Hashem behaves like, so to speak, when somebody is insulting his friends. It's like Hashem's own business. Like, this is not something that can wait for, the HR guy to deal with, or the malach, whatever. Amar Biabo. Now comes Rabbi Bo with another statement regarding that. Gimel, there are three people that Ein hapargod ninal bifneim. A pargod is basically like a curtain, a veil. There's a sort of figurative curtain between Hashem and the Malachim, and that curtain is closed. Yeah, machora pargod, that concept that we know. There are three people that the pargod is not closed in a bad way. In a bad way, is not closed. In other words, Hashem watches through the pargod to punish them, so to speak, in person. Yeah, in other words, there is no stopping between you and Hashem. There's no room to, maneuver. There's Hashem himself watching through the paragod. There's like a direct punishment, direct hashgacha on three people who do terrible things. Who are those? The people are not terrible. The deeds are terrible. What are those things? That's a good old friend. The gezel, mamish theft, v'avodah zarah. Now, I'm not sure with Afkadiz and Ateshasish, for example, I don't know, but these things are all, two of them are Ben Odom La Chaveroi, Avodah Zarah is the worst sin, Ben Odom La Makoim. So let's see. How do you know? Dichtivu B'yodoi Onoch. You see that Hashem has the Anach in his own hands. As we said before, you see Hashem takes personal care of his personal business of Reuven insulting Shimon. Gezel, what's Gezel? By the way, I'm thinking now as I'm talking, could be it's Hashem's personal business, because a person's neshama is 5 parts. So when you hurt someone's feelings, you're hurting his neshama, right? You're hurting his ruach, you're hurting the neshama shebekirbo. But lamaisa, that neshama is connected to Kodesh Baruch Hu. Yeah, the neshama up there is connected to Hashem. That's the yechida. It's up there in the very high world, Olam Atzilas. And therefore, when you hurt someone's neshama, it's really hurt Hashem himself. Our neshama is like the toe, Kivyochol, and Hashem is like the head, is the brain. If somebody really, really hurts your toe, your brain feels it, whatever, your nerve system, however, I'm not a doctor, yeah, but you feel it all the way up to the brain, and the brain system, and the nerve system. So too, when you hurt someone's neshama, yeah, you're really hurting a Kodesh Baruch Hu Alein, Kodesh Baruch Hu himself. So therefore, it's his own personal business. Now, Gezel. How do you know that Gezel is something that Hashem takes care of, so to speak, personally? It says Chamas v'shoid yishama bo. The Chamas v'shoid, different forms of theft. Yeah, Chamas, forced sale, will be heard in it, in the city. Al ponai tomid. It will always be my own face. Al ponai. It is my ki'ilu in front of me, in front of my face, without the pargod blocking the sight, so to speak. Right away, I can see the gezel, I can see right through, and I take care of it. Avodah Zorah. How do you know Avodah Zorah is something that Hashem takes care of immediately with no stoppage? It says, "Ha'ama machisim oisi al ponai tomid." The people who make me angry, machisim oisi al ponai tomid. What makes Hashem angry? Well, the rest of the pasuk says, "Ha'ama machisim olai." It says afterwards, it describes Avodah Zorah there. I don't remember here. It says that the people, what's the end of the pasuk? Yeah, mekatrim zoivchim beganos, so mekatrim alovenim. That the zoveach, they bring zvachim in the gardens, not to Hashem, to Avodah Zorah. That is something which is al ponai, my own face. I'm facing it. It's in my face. And that is something I do not forgive unless they do tshuva really, really well. It's right in Hashem's face. And by the way, it also says, if as I'm sure you know, in this week's parsha, in the Ten Commandments, you know about the Ten Commandments, the real one, not the movie. Yeah, so it says there, Al Ponai in Avodah Zarah, right? Al Ponai, Hashem's ponim are everywhere. Wherever you worship Avodah Zarah, you're hurting Hashem's feelings, so to speak. Straight there. Yeah, it's like the boss is there and the secretary is there right in front of me, and ask permission from the secretary instead of the boss. It's a big chutzpah. You're approaching the wrong person in front of the right person. That's real assault, an insult. Amar Rav Yehuda. Oh, more about Shalom Bayis. More Shalom Bayis advice for today. Amar Rav Yehuda, you're all going to come and, renew your vows. Yeah. Amar Rav Yehuda. A person should always be careful when it comes to tvua, when it comes to produce, to tvua, which really means food, but really means basic food, like wheat, barley, bread. And you should always be careful regarding the tvua in your house. It doesn't say what you should be careful about. I assume it means, but soon we'll see differently. I assume it means what? Make sure there's always food at home, right? Make sure as a man, you have the responsibility to put bread on the table. I'm not saying that's wrong, but that's a simple meaning. Why? Yeah, the real fighting only starts in a person's house over iske tvua. In other words, when there's no bread in the house and not enough bread, financial hardships, many, many, many times, they create what? They create marital shalom bayis issues. Yeah, many, many times. One second. Shneimar, because it says in Tilim, which we all said this morning, Asam gvulech shalom. Yeah, in other words, how does Hashem make sure that gvulech shalom? How do you know that your gvul, your territory, is at peace? When is there peace at home? When you have the fat of the wheat, when you have good wheat at home, nice and fat wheat. And I recommend also, sushi, steaks, whatever she likes. Yeah, you bring it at home. That keeps the wife happy. What I wanted to add before I want to listen to you, it's very interesting. It doesn't say exactly that the husband should work to bring the money. He should make sure the money comes. And what does it say? Well, usually people work, obviously. But here it says that Hashem brings the parnasa. The pasuk is not go out and work. The pasuk says Hashem, make sure Hashem brings the food into your house. Yeah. In other words, as much as you work or you don't work, whatever you do, you should know parnasa is mishamayim. You have to daven a lot for parnasa. The way you go to work, very nice. People go to work, but that's pechat echalochem. But Lamaisa, you should know that the one who brings the parnasa and the tefillah should be very, very strong to Hashem to give you parnasa is a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Is that what you wanted to say, or you want to add something else? Absolutely. Yeah. What? No money comes in, love flies out the window. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Get Shakespeare. Yeah. Shall I put it on the YouTube thing? Shakespeare. Okay. Omar Rav. Omar Puppet. Oh, Amar Pope. Rav Pope now is asserting what we said. Amar Pope. Hainu damri inshi. This fits into what people say. That sounds like what people say. Kemishlam sa'ari mikada. Once this, like you said, once the barley is out of the cad, is out of the ran out of the jug, whatever. The fridge is empty. Nokish ve'ati tigra bebeisa. The tigra, the fighting is knocking on the door. Once there's when food is out, then fighting starts creeping in. Oh, now, no, one more. A person should always make sure to at least have the minimum, the tvua in his house, to have, sustenance in his house. Sheloni Kuru Israel Dalim El Aliske Tvua. Israel are only called Dalim, only called poor when they don't have the basics, the tvua, the produce, the grains, Shenemar, because it says in the Pasuk over there, the Pasuk describes the wars at the beginning of Shoiftim, the wars of the Amalekim and Plishtim against Israel. I think this was actually Amalekim, although the Plishtim were the worst at the time. They used to burn the fields of Klal Yisrael, and Klal Yisrael had Klal Yisrael would work the field, would till the earth. Then the Plishtim and Amalekim would come and burn everything. Okay, Shimshon came to save them, right? But that was after many years of us doing it to them, right? And then the UN got involved. And the UN said, why is Shimshon doing this to the poor Palestinians, right? And the BBC also, Shenemar v'hoya, BBC, Shenemar v'hoya im zora Israel. It starts saying Israel would sow the fields, would plant the fields. They would gang up on them and camp on them and destroy the fields. It's Midian. It wasn't only Midian, by the way. I remember from learning Navi, it was a Meleki and Plishtim, the Kitzer, Rabim Kamim Alai. Yeah. In other words, but at the end of the day, the word Dalus applies to somebody who doesn't have wheat, which means that although Toysus, I think it's Toysus who points out that they also took away their animals, they took away other things. But you only call Dal real poor, you don't have the basics, which means for a man, you don't have to make your wife a millionaire. Nice to buy a diamond ring every once in a while. Yeah, $10,000. But at least keep the basics, not to be called a dal. Make sure you do your best to at least bring the tvua, the basic, staples home, so there's no poverty, no fighting. Now, here comes your point. No, I want to quote you. 1 second, and then I'll hear you again. Omar b'chelbo, start the other way. You want to be rich? And she's complaining and you start fighting, start the other way. Start from Shalom Bais, then you'll get to Parnasa. So first of all, be careful with your wife's dignity. Make sure you mechabed your wife and make sure you treat your wife nicely. She'en bracha Metzia b'toch beisa shel adam ela b'shvil ishto. Right? In other words, a bracha, the blessing only comes to a man's house because of his wife. If you treat your wife nicely and she's happy, covered doesn't mean to give money. Give love, give support, listen to her. Yeah, whatever covet she needs, do this to her, and then Hashem will bring in the parnasa. Shenemar. It says about our forefather and his wife, Abraham and Sarah. Who was that? It was Paroi. It's through Paroi. Who is Paroi? He's a shliach of Hashem. Paroi gave Avram money because of Sarah. So Lamaisa, the parnasa comes through Shalom Bais. You start with Shalom Bais, and then gates of parnasa come in. Hainu, and thank you for waiting. Hainu damalu Rava l'bnei Mechuzah. Who is the richest town in the times of the Gemara? Mechuzah. Rava was a Rosh Yeshiva and a dayan in Mechuzah. He gave shiur to the balabatim of Mechuzah, and what did he tell them? Oikirul and shaychu, be mechabed your wife. Honor your wives, give dignity to your wives. Glorify your wives. So you should become rich, and he worked. Why were they rich? Because they were mechabed the wives. They bought them fancy things and they showed them covet and remembered their birthday, a year before. So yeah, Mimela, that's how they became rich. And I'm listening to you. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. 5 minutes to go, and we're starting something new. But at the end of that story, we're about to start a long and very, very, very fundamental story in Jewish Hashkafa. In other words, this is one of the, apparently I spoke to someone who told me this is one of the main shiurim of Rav Tat. Rav Tat teaches Hashkafa, Jewish philosophy. One of his favorite Gemaras is this. And also my father used to read us this Gemara many, many times when I was a child. Yeah. So now let's go into this Gemara. This Gemara is a story which has a shkofa, and at the end of the story, we see how that ties, the loose ends, tie, and to our issue of Let's see the story. Let's hear the story. It's not Hostam. It starts with the Mishnah. What does it say in the Mishnah? The Mishnah, before I start the Mishnah, I'll give you an intro. Yeah, we all know that a kli cheres, a vessel made out of cheres, of earthenware, of clay, that was in the furnace, yeah, that receives tuma. It accepts tuma, receives tuma. It's susceptible to get tuma. Let's say sheretz is hanging, dead sheretz is hanging in the middle of that. Kli cheres receives tuma. Okay. What about something made out of earth that was not in the oven? Earthenware, clay adomo, which means, let's say I managed to make some provisory kli from sand. Yeah, sand, I hardened it enough. Or earth, they do that in Africa, without being in the furnace, okay? Just like that, sort of like more primitive, without being furnace in the oven, then it does not receive tuma. Okay, what happens to a hybrid? Your hybrid tanur, which means, says the Mishnah, it's a quote from a Mishnah in Kelim. Now, the oven of the times of the Gemara was pyramid shaped, was conically shaped, was like a cone. Yeah, the top there would be you can put a pot in the top of it or inside of it, right? But Lamaisa, yeah, it's not a pyramid; it's like a pyramid, with a head cut, like a flat top pyramid. Okay, very nice. Now, imagine yourself, you have a tanur made out of proper clay in the furnace, nice, shiny, new, and you cut it on purpose into circles, into chulios, into many, many hoops, yeah, one after the other. Between each section, between each fragment, 1, 2, 3, 4, you cut them on purpose. Why did you cut them? Because you're trying to be smart with halacha. And between each section of mekabel tuma, of real clay, you placed sand, raw sand. Why would you do that? Because what are you trying to get out of? Rabbi Lezer Metar says, Rabbi Lezer, it's tahor. Because it's connected through the sand, it's not, and the sand is not mekabel tuma. Rabbi Lezer said the sand is the main thing here. It keeps together with the sand. The sand pieces interrupt between each potentially tuma part. So now, if the sheretz came in, it's not mekabel tuma. He'd use that as important enough. The sand, that it's like a sand kli, like you make a sand kli with you were the kid in the beach. That's toher. The chachamim metamin. The chachamim say no. The majority of it is tome. And by the way, there was also a coating. There was coating it from the outside, both parts, the good and the bad one. So chachamim say, listen, at the end of the day, the more important part, the more key part is the one which is tome. So it receives tuma. Okay. So now, bezeh hu tanur shalachnoi. That kind of tanur is called the tanur of the snake. Why is it called the tanur of the snake? My achnoi. Why do you call that the snake tanur? Omar Rav Yehuda. And by the way, it's a kind of snake that coils around itself. Yeah, and Rashi says he puts his tail, its whole tail, into his mouth. Yeah, it's like what? Boa constrictor. The boa does that. He puts his own. He coils. I know. Yeah, but now Rashi says more that he puts his own tail in his own mouth. It's like a full circle. Why is it called that way? Amar Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, shekifu dvorim keachna zu v'timur. In other words, people basically ganged up on Rabbi Lezer, who said that it's tohar. They surrounded Rabbi Lezer with many, many, many different reasoning. They gave him a lot of reasons. Two mentar is not easy. They gave him a lot of arguments, a lot of reasons, a lot of halabaloo, a whole story, and they circled and basically they were all against Rabbi Lezer that said it's tohar, and Rabbi Lezer said, and everybody else said it's tome, and everyone was like around him like a snake. Tana, okay, I'm not going to continue now. That's actually a very good place to stop. This is the argument between Lezer and Chachamim, and the end of that story, and the Putim in Nidui, and Loi B'Shamaymi. We learned very, very basic, fundamental things in Jewish thought, hashkafa, and philosophy, and v'chulei. May we never insult each other, Be'ezras Hashem, and not get insulted, only be good with each other, and Mashiach should come soon, and everybody in Turkey should be well.